The CenterPoint Forms Designer module allows you to customize the printing of your payroll checks or advices. If you own the CenterPoint Forms Designer, select Setup, Forms Designer, and there is an option Check Form Designer, which gives you the ability to customize the check portion of the payroll check or advice. And the Payroll Check Stub Form Designer is the portion that is showing the breakdown of the earnings, deductions, benefits, leave, that type of information. We'll start with the Check Form Designer. The screen displays and select File in the upper left and Open. And it's easiest to start with one of the forms that is closest to what you are needing. So we'll go ahead and select one. We'll select the Stub Check Stub and click Open. That's going to display the fields that currently are used for this particular layout. All of the fields are a box. If you click on it, you'll see the little icons where you can make the box bigger, wider. You can drag this box and move it if you want to. If you move something and you didn't mean to, you can always go up to the edit and do undo. It'll put it back as it previously was. You can change things of the appearance over in the lower right. So the box I have highlighted, first of all, it's indicating in the field list of what field this one is representing, which is the company name. And if you look at the lower right, it is indicating different things that you can do to the appearance of it. So I could change a background color, I could put a border around it, change the font by clicking the lookup, and you'll see your list of different fonts, the font style and the size. Any of those can be changed. And as well as the behavior of making that box be able to grow or make it visible. Visible is an option that you might use if you're using blank stock checks and you are going to do the MICR printing. If you highlight the MICR fields, currently they are made not visible, but if you're using the blank check stock and you want to use the MICR printing, then highlight one of the fields, which is a MICR check number in this case. And over in the appearance under behavior is a visible, which it's defaulting to no. Just change that to yes. And you would do that for each one of these fields. Just change visible to yes. You can add a field. The field list are all different pieces of information from your setup that you can bring in. For instance, if I wanted to add the employee's abbreviation onto this to make it helpful, then I can go over to my list and find payee abbreviation, highlight that field, and you just drag it and drop it where you want to. It just turned red right now because I dropped it right on top of another field. That red color is indicating that I've got two fields on top of one another. So I can take that and just move it up, and now it's white, and that indicates it's no longer on top of one another. I can make that box smaller and then move it down again. I can also do an alignment if I select the box below it because I want to align it to that one, and I select the new one I add. There are some formatting options up at the top where I can do an align by all of these different ways of left, center, right, top, middle, bottom. So if I do a left, that brought my new field that I added in alignment with the other ones that are next to it. I could also add a text field. If I click on the icon of the A up there that indicates a text box, if I click that, I can now draw a box where I want to and add my own text. To add my own text, and again, this is above the other one, I'm going to get that out of the way. Over on the appearance with this box selected, in the data section of the property is the text, and I can change this text to what I want that to say. So if I wanted that to say employee, I can do that. And when I hit my enter key, it changed my the name of that box. Then I could again go up to the format and I could change the background color to something else like a gray color. I could make this a bold by going up to my font, click my lookup on my font and choose the style of bold. And now make it smaller again and move it down in the alignment. There are a lot of different things you can do to make this form print how you want it. If I wanted to move the memo lines to a different spot on the form, I'm going to hold down my control key so I'm selecting both fields at one time. That allows me to move both fields at one time to a different position and drop them. Or if there is simply just one of them I didn't want, just hit the delete key on your keyboard, or you can right click and choose delete. And that takes that off of there. So anything that you need to change, if the position of the check date, the check number aren't correct, you can easily move those wherever you need to, make it wider. And once I have all of these things finished of how I want this form, I can try it with a preview. You can go up to view and do a preview. That'll show you how it's going to kind of look right now, and you can see I made only that first field in the Micker be invisible. The other ones aren't visible yet. This would how it would be showing on your check. If you want to go back to the designer then to make any other changes, you can do that. Once you have it how you want, you go to File and do a Save As. The other thing you can do on the check form, if you happen to have a check where the check is, for instance, at the bottom, here are some different layout options. So if your check was stub check, you could select that option to get your check to print at the bottom and the stubs at the top. I'm going to leave it at the stub, check stub. And now you want to go to Save As. You can't save it to the same name that you used when you started, which was one of the defaults. You want to go to a Save As. Once you have a Save As file name, then you can make changes to that same file whenever you want to. So I'm going to go to Save As and just call this Payroll Check and save that. Once I have a new check and I want to be able to use that in my next pay runs, I need to go up to File and Preferences and Payroll. And either printing checks or printing invoices, these forms will be used on either one, but you might want a different one for each one. Click on the printing checks, click the database tab, and now my new one will be on the list, which was payroll check. And then you would resave it. And now we'll show you a couple other things in the, I'm going to close out of this section and go back to Setup, Forms Designer, and go to the Payroll Check Stub Form Designer. And again, it looks similar to the check designer, but the fields that you have to work with will be different, of course. We're going to go to File and Open. And here's our list of different forms that we have, and there was one saved already with standard with DDT details, direct deposit details. We're going to start with the standard with leave and benefits. And on the form are all of the fields. Again, if you highlight the field, it'll go to what that represents, which in this case was employee name, employee social security number, the pay date. In the detail are all the different details that describe their different earnings, the earning hours or year to date, the earning amount year to date, deductions and benefit information. And again, if you scroll this list, there are a lot of different pieces of information that you may or may not want to bring over. So one of the things I was going to show you is if you're using direct deposit for your employees and your employees use multiple banks, currently the options that are included in the direct deposit are just a total for everything that's part of checking and a total for everything that is savings. But if your employees say they want to see a breakdown of each one of the individual because maybe they are using 3 or 4, then that is something that you can do in this check stub designer. I'm going to delete out the fields that are currently there, which are indicating the direct deposit savings totals. And instead, there is a list of direct deposit description, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a direct deposit account amount, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those will be the fields that you want to bring in if they want to see more detail on their direct deposit. So I could bring these over as a new field. So I'll do direct deposit 1, and I'll do direct deposit description 2, put that one right there, and direct deposit account amount 1, and direct deposit account amount 2. You want to make sure and bring the right ones next to the right label. And that is a way that you can get new fields brought into the detail that you might want. So I could highlight all 4 of those fields and again do an alignment to align the tops. So that moved a couple of them a little bit so that they will look nice on the form. And I could make this one bold if I want by going over to my font. And, oops, oh, that's a foreground color. I want the font. Here we go. And make it bold. And I could also put a background on that if I wanted to, and do a background color. Oops, they were all selected. That's why it went all gray. I instead only wanted, let's turn these 2 back off. And we'll go back to transparent on those 2. And gray. All right, so that makes a change there. And again, if we want to go see what that looks like, we can go to our view and preview. And these X's, of course, would be the description coming from the employee's direct deposit tab. And this would be how it would show up. So currently we have the layout of this information on the check stub. When you want to go back to your format and go back to the designer, you just go back here. So any changes the same as on the check, wherever you want to get rid of fields where you don't need the information, you can get rid of it. If you want to bring in additional information, you can bring in additional information. If, for example, on this screen, if we wanted to show overtime hours and regular hours because you're using calculated overtime, then we could bring in those fields of overtime hours and overtime hours label. And then you would additionally want to show regular hours too if you're showing this. I'm trying to get it away from there. There we go. And again, we would need to resize these and get them how we want them. So there's some different things that you can do with the check form designer to make this information how you want for your employees. And when you have the check stub as you want it, again, you're going to go to File and do Save As and give this a different name. Whatever you want to call that, and save it. And then that will be the new option that you would select under Payroll. And let's go to the printing devices this time, go to the database and select our new option. And save it. And you can always, that's the one time thing. If you need to come back and make changes on this particular form, you can just make the changes, but your preferences would stay the same. And that is just a few of the things that you can do in your Check Forms Designer.